Howdy guys, in today's objective review, I'm going to be covering the card game Bargain Quest by the creators Renegade Games. This is a fairly straightforward card game that is both engaging and highly accessible to players of all different skill levels. And if you're a DM for D&D or any other TTRPG that involves a lot of shopping elements, then there's another hidden bonus for you playing this game. But before I get into that, let me tell you guys what this game is about, what you can expect in the box, what it feels like to play the game, and what are the strengths and weaknesses of this game. That way, you can make an informed decision about whether you should add this game to your shelf. So let's talk about the premise of the game itself. What is the goal? What is the objective? What are we doing when we're playing this game? Well, to put it simply, we're in a fantasy world in a town being plagued by monsters, and it is our responsibility to do what we can to sell as many items as we can to the heroes that can do all the real work and save this town while we sit back and turn a profit. Ideally, they defeat all the monsters and save us, but if they didn't, hopefully we made enough money that we can skip out of town and keep selling to new heroes. But you're probably wondering now, what are we getting in this box? What is it that we're actually gonna have to use to sell to all these heroes? What are we selling to them? And to put it simply, we have 11 different components that we can look forward to in this box. We have the shop boards, 5 different tokens, and 5 different card types. Now, before I get into the quality of all these different components, let's talk about the artwork of the components themselves. The artwork, in my opinion, is quite nice. I personally enjoy it because it has a really good fantasy and D&D theme about it, while also being cartoonish enough that younger players can appreciate it and understand what it is they're looking at. That's not even including some of the humor that's sprinkled in with the different heroes and item cards. I personally really enjoy the fact that each of the shops all is very uniquely different and distinct from one another, giving them all a different personality and feel when you select one. And on top of that, each hero is very different from the next, making them very distinct and very easy to spot as you play with them. With the tokens also being fairly clear. We have money tokens, score points, and damage tokens. So now let's talk about the quality of all of these components together. So first, let's talk about the shop boards. They're all made out of a fairly thick cardboard that is fairly durable and should last you a decent amount of time. I've been playing a couple times and none of mine show any wear and tear. While the different cardboard tokens are also made out of the same fairly thick cardboard, letting them survive tons of play. While the cards, however, these leave a little bit to be desired on. They're a little bit thinner than I would prefer, meaning they're gonna show wear and tear and bend a little bit sooner than you would like. However, I've been playing for a bit and mine don't show too much wear and tear, just slight bending, but maybe it's because I'm playing with adults and we all take fairly good care of the cards when we're playing with them. But you could also use card protectors to help make them last a lot longer. The next thing we need to cover is the game mechanics themselves. The game is fairly straightforward and the rules are very easy to understand. The rule book is 14 pages long, with the majority of the pages being covered in pictures, very easy to digest for most people of any age. The game essentially breaks down into 7 different phases. And our very first step, we select what shopkeep we want to actually take ownership of for the rest of the game. This is only done one time. After that, we repeat the next 6 phases over and over and over until we either defeat all the monsters or until the monsters overrun the town. And these steps are super convenient and easy to understand, and they're even shown at the bottom of your shop board so you always know what phase you're on whenever you're on it. The first phase being the supply phase, where we get to determine what items we have in our shop to sell to these heroes through a drafting system. After that, we have the display phase, where we pick one of our items and we display it so we can attract these heroes. The third phase is where we've managed to charm one of these lucky heroes to come into our shop, where we can sell them as much as we humanly can, taking as much gold for them as we possibly can. Hopefully gearing them up enough that they can survive and keep fighting to see another day. The fourth phase is where they actually go out and adventure to go defeat the monster themselves, but before that, they do a little bit of a gamba, revealing an interesting quirk about them that either helps them or hurts them, followed by the upgrade phase, where we either upgrade our shop itself or hire an employee to give us an advantage in the next rounds, and then we finish it all off with the storage phase. This is where we get to pick at least one item from our shop that wasn't sold, that way we can carry it on to the next round. And then we repeat from the supply phase. We draft new cards, we get the heroes, we sell to them, and we send them off to die. I mean, save the town again. After all the monsters are defeated or the town is overrun, we then count up all the different points we collected along the way. And whoever has the most points, they're the winner. They're the best shopkeeper out there. They're the best salesman. But now, what has been my experience playing this game with my friends? Honestly, we've had a lot of fun playing it. Every time we did manage to get together and play this, we managed to go through a few different playthroughs during each session. But honestly, I would say the best sessions I remember having with my friends playing Bargain Quest was when things went horribly wrong for at least one person or another. Mostly because me and my friends, we tend to enjoy playing games in a very punishing way, or at least turning up the difficulty level a little bit higher than normal. And because of the luck-based aspect of this game, there were many times where we had one player or a couple players unable to actually sell anything to any of the heroes or do anything whatsoever. And honestly, I thought that's kind of funny. We all do, because even though it does put that player behind a little bit, it's a lot of fun going, how do we roll with this? How do we go about this? Most of the time, we're all just chanting, hoping that hero dies whenever they go fight the monster. That way we get a fresh new hero with fresh gold. That way we can sell to them. Aside from the part where we first select the heroes going to each shop, everything else can go all at once, which is so nice. Because me and my friends play a lot of strategy games, meaning we get a little bit more impatient if we're just sitting there waiting for someone to spend 4 or 5 minutes trying to take their turn. But what also helps in this situation is the fact that the game is so simple and straightforward. That way, we're all able to figure out a proper and optimized strategy fairly easily. In terms of replayability, I think this game has a fair amount of it, because every time you play it, there'll be different monsters attacking the town, which all have slightly different abilities and how they affect the different phases of the game. Plus, you're never gonna get the exact same heroes and the exact same items every single time you play. On top of that, if you and your players are extra creative and you also decide to role play your shop, then every time you do something to be slightly different and very engaging, because you're all putting on your own wacky voices and doing your own little bits in the game. And now let's talk about the pros and cons of Bargain Quest. Starting with the pros, we have what I value the highest personally. The fact that the art is very enticing and very cutesy. I personally love artwork in board games or any type of game that's very appealing to the eye and is very engaging. This is closely followed by the fact that the rules for the game are very easy to understand, which helps make strategizing in the game that much easier, even if they're not used to drafting games or economy-based games. With the last major bonus being if you are a DM for D&D or any other TTRPG. Depending on how you decide to play with your friends, you can easily entice them to roleplay how their shopkeep actually works and what the shopkeeper talks like when they're selling to their heroes. That way, you can steal that idea for your next session. I know I personally do that with my friends, and they've caught on a little bit, but they think it's all good fun. Moving on to the cons, I think the biggest weakness of this game, for me, is the fact that it is a little bit too straightforward. I personally like a little bit of crunch in my games. This leaves a little bit of want for me. Point system is very easy to game, and the adventure part where you're attacking the monster doesn't really feel that challenging, because the thresholds to do so are very easy to understand and you can easily game that. The only parts that might throw a wrench in your plans is the random chance of the quirks, but even then, if you strategize properly, you can work around that with relative ease. As a very strong contender for first place though on the cons list is the fact that the card quality just really isn't up to snuff in my opinion. With how often you're kind of throwing these cards around the table, shuffling them in and passing them around, I kind of wish they were a little bit thicker. That way they can handle a little bit more wear and tear. I know it's easy enough to get card protectors or play a little bit slower, but I don't like the fact that it has that added bonus, that little bit of added money cost you have to sink into this game to help make it last that much longer. While this next con is something I feel like a lot of other players would probably view as their #1 con. The fact that there is a lot of luck involved in this game. There's a lot of chance that can either screw up your plans or set a player behind with no reason whatsoever, giving them no agency to kind of change it around. To me and my friends, we're fine with that level of luck. We're fine with that level of complications and difficulty. But I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. So I would say this might be other people's biggest con, but for me, it's #3. So now we come down to the final and most important question. What is the official rating, the objective review of this game? Is this something you should really be spending your cold, hard-earned cash on and adding to your shelf? Honestly, I would say yeah. I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. It isn't the best game out there, it isn't the most engaging game out there, but it's definitely a fun game. It definitely deserves a place on anyone's shelf, especially if they're trying to get their friends into playing other board games that are a little bit more complex, have economy-based systems, or require a little bit more strategy. It does a great job at introducing players into all of those things. A perfect gateway game. Mostly because I think the artwork and the fact that it's so easy to pick up and introduce players into a different way of thinking and playing board games greatly outvalues the fact that the card components aren't as high as you would like, and that some games might be a little bit more on the bad side depending on how luck rolls out. But you can easily fix these issues with some house rules or a card protector and some Sharpie. I know no one wants to spend even more money, but it's not that much more an investment if you really think about it, especially if you can get your friends to play this game and a bunch of other board games with you. Plus, if you're a DM, I highly encourage you to get this game even more because you can easily get all your players to create wacky shop keeps for you. That way, you don't need to think about them for your next session. So if you found this video helpful and enjoyable, give this video a like and comment down below what has been the most memorable shopping experience you've had at your table or in any video game you've played recently. The next board games I'll be reviewing is either going to be Casting Shadows or Command of Nature by the studio Unstable Unicorns. So make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss out when those videos drop. But yeah, see you guys next time.